On the Gulf Coast of Texas, steel is being cut, sparks are flying, and history is being written in real time. What's rising there is not another conventional shipyard, but something built for an entirely different era of war. Port Alpha is the first American naval yard designed to mass-produce autonomous warships, and it's already racing ahead at a pace the old defense giants could never match. The company driving it, Saronic Technologies, has attracted billions in funding and is rolling out vessels that don't need crews, cabins, or even a pause between missions. 6 prototypes are already in the water, and the 7th is said to carry the punch of a destroyer without a single sailor on board. For decades, China's edge has been sheer numbers at sea. But Port Alpha is betting that speed and autonomy can flip the balance. Will it be enough to close the gap before time runs out? And how different will the future of naval warfare look when ships fight without people? Let's find out. 6 Cypher at 60 feet long. Built for speed and carrying a staggering 10,000 pounds of payload, Cypher represents a turning point in naval design. Its profile is lean, but its role is anything but simple. This vessel is not a ship in the traditional sense. It is a logistical ghost, engineered to slip across contested seas and deliver what others cannot. Capable of sprinting past 35 knots and crossing 3,000 nautical miles without pause, Cypher blends reach, speed, and flexibility in a single frame. What makes it stand apart is its ability to take a standard 20-foot ISO container and plug it directly into ship power, bypassing the endless complications of custom racks or specialized fittings. Whatever can be packed into that steel box, communications arrays, electronic warfare equipment, medical facilities, spare parts, or even a stack of drones, Cypher can move it at fleet speed. It brings industrial utility into frontline waters, operating with the cadence of a warship, but the adaptability of a cargo hauler. Its purpose becomes clear in practice. Spyglass 6 feet in length and carrying only 40 pounds of payload. Spyglass looks almost insignificant at first glance, yet its size is the very reason it is dangerous. This small, uncrewed craft can be slipped from a beach, launched from a rigid hull inflatable, or unleashed as a swarm, lighting up enemy communication networks wherever it roams. It sprints at 20 knots, has a 30 nautical mile reach, and thrives in waters too shallow, cluttered, or narrow for manned patrol boats. Its story began in a garage, built by a former naval officer who wanted to prove that delivering steel was more important than endless PowerPoint slides. That prototype became the foundation of Saronic's philosophy. Autonomy had to be real, usable, and scalable. Spyglass was not a concept hit, was a tool. It demonstrated that small hulls, produced quickly, could perform meaningful missions without draining budgets or requiring years of development. The advantage lies in its ability to go where no traditional craft dares. For Cutlass takes the philosophy of Spyglass and scales it into a larger, sharper instrument. 14 feet in length, carrying 200 pounds of payload, and boasting a reach of 300 nautical miles. It transforms from a demo craft into a true operational node. It sprints at 20 knots, but unlike its smaller sibling, it carries its own radar mast, allowing it not only to follow orders, but to detect, classify, and track targets independently. Its autonomy rides on a modular software stack, enabling payload swaps like applications on a phone. Electro-optical sensors today, electronic warfare gear tomorrow, a rack of loitering munitions by the weekend. The adaptability is built into its very design. During major naval drills, Cutlass demonstrated this flexibility by launching Altius loitering munitions in mid-ocean, handing off control smoothly, and proving that autonomy is not a science project but an operational reality. 3 Mirage, 40 feet long, and carrying up to 2,000 pounds of payload. Mirage enters the realm of ship-sized silhouettes. With a reach of 2,000 nautical miles and speeds exceeding 35 knots, Mirage is the kind of craft assigned sectors rather than errands. It operates like a manned patrol vessel, but without the burden of crew or the vulnerabilities that come with it. Its frame is built for heavy assignments, medium radar arrays, tall optical masts, compact electronic warfare suites, or racks of loitering munitions can all be integrated through its modular bays. Two Mirages can run patrols side by side, writing their own patterns while a destroyer conserves fuel and ammunition for more critical missions. When assigned to escort duty, Mirage acts as a wingman, shadowing frigates at full speed and feeding targeting data to shooters with calm efficiency. When deployed in groups, they build overlapping networks of surveillance and defense, cross-queuing threats, rotating patrols, and securing sectors across vast distances. Mirage offers presence, reach, and persistence, amplifying the fleet without consuming sailors or straining larger. The ocean has always been the stage for great powers to prove themselves. In the Cold War, carriers ruled the seas as floating fortresses, symbols of strength that could project American power to any corner of the globe. Now, a new generation of carriers is stepping into that role, and at the center of it stands the USS John F. Kennedy. CVN-79. It carries the name of a president who once tied America's destiny to the stars. But today, its mission is survival in an era unlike any before. Hypersonic missiles close distances in minutes. Drones move in coordinated packs, and orbital systems track every movement below. Can a ship designed for decades of service keep pace with weapons that evolve by the year? Or is the age of the carrier approaching a breaking point? For more than a century, the aircraft carrier has stood as the centerpiece of naval power, altering the very shape of modern warfare. When the Imperial Japanese Navy commissioned its first carrier in the early 1920s, the world had little idea how profoundly this type of ship would change the calculus of conflict. By the time the Second World War erupted, it became clear that air power launched from the sea could decide the fate of nations. Battles like Midway showed that carriers had eclipsed battleships, proving themselves as unmatched tools of projection and deterrence. From that moment onward, the United States made the aircraft carrier the core of its strategy, using these massive vessels to respond to crises, exert influence, and establish dominance across oceans. Even today, when an international emergency unfolds, military planners, allies, and rivals alike still ask the same question: where is the nearest American carrier? Over decades, the United States refined and expanded this capability, constructing ships of unparalleled size, sophistication, and endurance. The Ford-class supercarriers represent the latest and most ambitious step in that journey. They are engineering marvels designed to embody American sea power for generations to come, each one longer than 3 football fields, wider than the wingspan of a Boeing 747, and towering higher than landmarks that have stood for centuries. But with size comes cost. The lead ship, USS Gerald R. Ford, consumed nearly $13 billion in construction, supported by billions more in research and development. Its successor, USS John F. Kennedy, cost slightly less, but still ranked among the most expensive military projects in history. Such staggering sums raise questions, yet the Navy argues that what these ships bring to the table cannot be measured in dollars alone. The Kennedy, known as CVN-79, began her story at Newport News Shipbuilding in 2009. Unlike previous carriers, that often reached completion in 5 years, her path stretched far longer, mirroring the extended timeline of the Ford itself. After years of assembly, trials, and delays, the Ford was finally commissioned in 2017, and the Kennedy's turn followed. Critics pointed to setbacks, but the reality was more complex. These ships carried so many untested technologies that they represented not a simple upgrade, but an entirely new class of warship. The Kennedy embodies that leap forward, weaving together innovations that alter how carriers will fight, endure, and adapt well into the middle of the century. Central to her design are 2 A-1B nuclear reactors, the beating heart of the ship. Together, they produce nearly 700 megawatts of thermal power, a full quarter more than the reactors of the Nimitz class. This surge in energy output gives the Kennedy endurance far beyond any conventional vessel, while also opening the door to future systems that require immense amounts of electricity. It powers the ship's radar, sensors, electronics, and weapons, and most importantly, it enables the revolutionary electromagnetic aircraft launch system. For decades, steam catapults had been the defining feature of carrier aviation.